This is Umar for BoxNation. I'm at the headquarters of Frank Warren. I'm joined by Frank Warren. What was an eventful weekend up in Birmingham, Frank? I know you tuned in on Sky. Not the result, obviously, you wanted for Liam, but he's had an amazing story out of this. It looked like at one point he wasn't going to box again. And I actually want to show you a clip of how Liam summed it up. Just have a look at this.
Can't be upset, can I? That ain't an upset moment for me. I didn't win, but I've won in life, haven't I didn't think I'd box again, so we've just sold Birmingham out, and the crowd were for me.
That reception was incredible.
Unbelievable. I'll take that to my grave. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate the support. That's mega to me. That's better than any world title, being loved like that.
Well, they did. They showed him a lot of love, didn't they, the crowd? Unfortunately, I couldn't be there. It was one of my son's birthday, and we was at the birthday party, so we watched it on TV. But yeah, that sums it all up. He's a really well-liked guy, and you look at his background, and you look at the facts of all the trials and tribulations that he's come through. Some self-inflicted, as is the case, and boxing's been his saviour, and it's brilliant that all that love was showed for him there, and he just didn't get the result on the night. No,
he didn't, and I know his plan for the rematch was to take Ben into the later round, because that's where we saw in the mid-rounds in the first fight, Liam was really having success and taking over the fight. He did get caught with a peach of a shot.
He did.
His knee buckled a bit, he went back on the ropes. So at that point, when Howard Foster intervenes, in your mind, is that too early?
Look, you always want to err on the side of caution sometimes when people hurt, but I would not have complained had he had let it go on a little bit longer. Watching it on TV, he's an experienced fighter, Liam, and who knows what happened. But Ben threw some good shots. No doubt about that, and he got the win. And our guy, Liam, he done extremely well financially. There's all that trials and tribulations leading up to the fight with where it's 10 or 12 rounds, and we all know the facts are he did sign for a 12-round fight, but he received some serious compensation. It was negotiated on his behalf, and that, for him, is a real result to come out of the fight. No one expected him. He weren't expected by a lot of people to win the first fight, and he was doing extremely well in that first fight. So he's done well out of it. Financially, he's done extremely well out of it.
Frank, you mentioned the contract situation then. Before we come back to the actual fight itself and what's maybe next for Liam. So during the week, when we got up to Birmingham, it had been resolved. And when I say resolved, a signed variation agreement was signed because Lee and Liam were happy with the compensation they got for making it 10 rounds. Now, according to the other side, in Ben, Shalom and Boxer, this was agreed a few weeks ago, and he labelled your outrage as fake, and you were using that on TalkSport to make it a mockery of them, really.
Not at all. If it was agreed a few weeks ago, why wasn't it signed? It wasn't signed till the week of the fight. Listen, Ben Shalom says a lot of things. He said it's an accident that it was signed, the contract. Yeah, it was a contract he signed. It was a 10-round, it was a 12-round contract. That's what I think one thing we all agree on, that it was a 12-round contract. He's saying that's an accident. That's not what Lee says, and I believe Lee. And the fact of the matter is, he was telling everybody at one stage, if they don't take it, he's going to cancel the fight or they're going to go for another opponent. All things that were complete rubbish and he couldn't do. Not outrage. My outrage. It's not outrage. My thing about it was how unprofessional it was, how stupid it was. And he can dress it up which way he likes. He signed a contract. Liam signed a contract, and his manager signed a contract for 12 rounds. And they wanted to make it a 10-rounder. And I told you, if it was me, I would not have changed it. I'd have left it as a 12-round.
Okay. So, Howard Foster intervenes. There's obviously a lot of emotion flying around in the ring. Ben goes over to Liam's corner, pokes his head out the ring and says something to Grant Smith. Grant Smith did clarify he didn't spit at him, which was being suggested on the night. That didn't happen. But what did you make of the celebration?
I didn't see that. You know, I mean, I didn't see him doing all that stuff, to be quite honest, because I wasn't there and I didn't see that on TV, to be honest. All I see is him when he jumps in the ring and flew in the ring off, which I thought was hilarious. You know, like it was quite interesting. I didn't see that.
Okay, so the opinion was split on it. So actually on the Sky broadcast, Dave Caldwell did label it as classless. Johnny Nelson said that there's been a lot of emotion. It was a justified reaction.
Doing what?
The celebration from Ben Whittaker and his team, that was labelled as classless from Dave.
Well, I can understand Ben doing that. If it's a fighter, he's, you know, the adrenaline's running. I can understand that. I've seen, you know, with fighters do that, and that's in the heat of the moment. You know, I think it's a bit. You expect. I think everybody else should be a bit more reserved.
Okay, there was a situation with Lee Eaton and Ben Shalom as well. I don't know if you've seen that clip.
I know, I've had my money on. I hope you weren't bullying Lee.
Well, what happened was when the fight was stopped, this is according to Lee, he's come over in his face and laughed in his face. Lee's seen red, he said, and he's gone over. Security split them up. Nothing did happen. It's a bit of handbags. But Shalom said he reacted like that because he felt Liam's team's comments in the build-up to this fight were quite unsavoury and classless. He said that to the ring in terms of Liam's team calling him Ben Whittaker and all this kind of thing.
Well, most of the controversy about the fight, let's get it right, the controversy about the fight was over the contract. And there's only one person responsible for that, is the people who signed it. He signed it. So any controversy about 10 or 12 rounds was all down to him. And the one who took all the stick of it was Ben Whittaker. And he signed, his team negotiated a 10-round fight. And that's what they signed for. And that's it. You can't blame them for that. For the 12 round, that was down to Boxer. That's down to Ben Shalom, who signed the contract. That's the end of it.
Okay. But that chapter...
it's gone anyway. It's all what's happened. You know, it's that chapter, that book's closed, and it's on to the next one, on to the next volume. And, you know, it'd be interesting to see what Ben does now, what Ben Whittaker does now.
I know it was brief, but how did you think the fight was going in comparison to the first fight?
Well, he's you know, Ben starts fast, doesn't he? That's what he does. What he done in the first fight, he starts fast, and he got his shots off in the second round.
Did he look a bit stronger and sharper in there to you?
Well, he knew he had to be stronger and sharper a bit early on in the fight. I mean, that you'd expect that. And I spoke to him on the phone before the fight. I said to him, you've got to really take command of this fight. Early on, you're going to have to keep your hands up and take command because he's going to come at you, because that's what you'd expect him to do.
But I think that's, for people saying that fight shouldn't have been stopped, that is the argument that on the ropes, you know, his guard was tight, his hands didn't drop at any point.
Yeah, I mean, there's a case for it. There's a case for it to be stopped, and there's a case for it should have gone on.
Let me ask you, if that was the other way around and Liam was inflicting those shots on Ben Whittaker, do you think Howard Foster would have jumped in?
Oh, that I don't. I mean, you know, I would hope that he would have done. I can't. I mean, it's irrelevant. I mean, you know, what's happened. Yeah, of course he could have let it go on for a couple more punches. If he absorbed them and got himself back in, who knows what happened? But the fact of the matter is, Ben was letting his shots go. And if sometimes you're not throwing shots back, then the referee has to stop him. I always say to fights, even if you're not a big puncher, if you're letting your shots go and there's no response, sometimes the referees jump in.
Yeah, okay. So for the future, I'm guessing with Queensberry, Liam can still be involved in some big fights?
Yeah, he's got to regroup, get himself back together and see what's there for him.
A couple of names do spring to mind. There's Zach Parker out there. There's Willie Hutchinson, Ezra Taylor. There's plenty.
There's a great fight up in Birmingham, isn't there, between Ben and Zach Parker.
Or Ben Whittaker and Zach Parker.
Be a good fight in the Midlands.
Do you think they'll want to do another fight with a Queensberry fighter?
Why wouldn't they? Why not? Just get your paperwork in order.
What level do you think he's at, Ben Whittaker, at this point?
Well, he's come back. I mean, the first fight, I said before, I thought as the fight went on, I thought Liam was doing really well, and obviously it had a bizarre ending. And I thought, who knows, if it had gone on, I think Ben may have won the fight. But you know, he's got himself together. Well, I mean, you know, when guys are doing what he was, doing in fights where he was, you know, the taunting guys and all the showboating and that. That's okay when you get to, you know, when you can get away with that at a certain level. As you go up, obviously you've got to focus on delivering and doing the business and looking the part in the ring. And it'd be interesting to see if he can do that. But he certainly got himself together for this fight.
Do you think he's at a Boatsy Yard sort of level, Whittaker?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay, that actually brings me on to Anthony Yarde, because it is Eubank Ben fight week this Saturday at Tottenham Hotspur. And Anthony Yarde is back in the ring against Lyndon Arthur, who he destroyed really last time. But people do forget he lost that first fight as well.
Yeah.
So in this third fight, I know you and Yarde are back together now. What do you expect from Anthony, Frank?
I expect him to look good and do what he's got to do. You know, as you say, the first fight was during COVID, and there was no atmosphere there, and a lot of people thought it was a close fight. I thought Lyndon won it. I thought, you know, the decision was a fair decision. Second one was, you know, Anthony going out and, you know, taking any decisions away from any judges or referees, and done what he had to do.
Do you think he does it again, stops him?
I think if he catches anybody, he gives him a problem. If he catches him, he'll be in trouble. But it's quite an intriguing fight, to be quite honest. But I fancy Anthony to win it.
And if that is the case, what does the future look like for Yarde?
I'd like him to see maybe fight him and Boatsy would be a good fight. Him and Callum be a good fight. They're good fights, quality fights.
Yeah, this domestic scene, there's plenty of fights.
There's some good fights that'll be made. Let's get them made.
Okay. In terms of the main event itself, I know who you're backing, obviously, Conor Benn. But how do you see it unfolding now we're on fight week, Frank? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are not changed from the beginning. You know, it's a big guy against a smaller guy. And I'm not going to... I mean, my thoughts haven't changed from when the fight was announced. Was it 2 years ago, 2.5
years ago?
Whatever it was, I think it's the same fight.
Mind you, though, that was for 157, wasn't it? Eubank was being really dragged down there.
That's true. Well, that's going to suit him better that he's not doing that. He's 160 now.
160.
And what is it, a £10
rehydration clause?
Rehydration clause. So we will see. I'm not a big fan of Eubank. You know that. I'm not a big fan of his. Not because of anything. You know, I've not been a fan of his as a fighter. Watching him, he's never really excited me, and he's never at the highest level done it. And he's no youngster. What's he? 35 now? 34?
34.
34, wherever it is. And young Conor, Conor's obviously a younger guy. We'll see what he's all about. You know, this is a crossroad fight for him. But you know, the bigger man, you always got, you know, you've got always go with, normally you'd go with a bigger man.
What are you hoping for, though?
I'm hoping that the winner fights one of my guys, and then we'll see who's the best.
Who would that be? A Denzel or a Hamza?
Yeah, any of them.
Okay, but what are you hoping for on the night itself?
Oh, I want to see Conor win. Yeah, I want Conor to win.
Okay. Frank, what's going on with Dennis McCann?
Dennis it's a process that he's going through with VADA. There's some questions being asked of VADA at the moment, which is, I've seen this correspondence between his lawyer and VADA, and they're waiting for some response to a couple of letters they've sent to VADA. So once they come back, see where this goes.
Do you expect it to be resolved sooner rather than later?
I don't think it'll be any time soon. They never are. These things, they're never over quickly. They never, ever are over quickly unless somebody goes and holds his hands up and says, I did. You know, that's right, I did take whatever it was, and I'm guilty, and then it'll get done quickly. But, you know, he's adamant that he has not done anything wrong.
Right, okay. Just to close off, we're expecting an imminent announcement for Daniel Dubois. Frank, I know the fight you really want to make, and that's what's been touted, is the Oleksandr Usyk rematch. So what I'm saying, is that accurate at this point?
I'd love to see that fight. You know, there's been some talks, and I'd love to see it happen. It's an unbelievable fight. A lot of controversy with the first one, with a low blow. So let's see what we do. Let's see if we can get it on. And if we get it on, I'm going to do it in the UK.
To be fair, I've asked,
and that'd be the first time, by the way. It'd be history. There's never been a heavyweight unification fight for the 4 belts ever in the UK. I don't think there's been 4 belt unification fight in America either. But in the UK, certainly not.
Do you think it sells out, Wembley?
Yep. It's a massive fight. I mean, especially how Daniel's come on. And, you know, Usyk and his, fabulous fights that he had with Tyson. Brilliant fights to watch. You know, it's got fight written all over it. It's a great, great fight. History and controversy from the first one. I
know you mentioned that, and I was going to say I've spoken to a fair few people about this potential rematch, and neutrals, people like Fraser Clark, who I spoke to, Carl Frampton, and these guys have all said they felt that was a legal shot in that first fight in Poland. And obviously Daniel has improved considerably in that time. That was actually his first fight with Don Charles. That one in Poland. So, look, he's got attack, head and body, but do you think, again, in this rematch, just another key, find that body for Daniel?
Daniel Dubois, no matter where he hits you, if he catches you, you're in trouble. He hits you on your arms. People feel the power, and it takes the fight out of them. And Usyk's a great fighter. You know, most people put him now, after his fights with Tyson, the best heavyweight of the 21st century. And I've seen some of the stuff that's gone up over the last, or since Tyson's fights, have put him as being one of the best ever. So that's great. That's great that he's being looked at that way. And if he's looked at that way and Daniel does the business, then it makes Daniel, steps into his shoes. So Daniel's got a lot to go for in this fight. He's got, for me, it's a win-win situation for him. It's there for him to do, and I know he's got the tools to do it. I know he's got a superb jab, and he's got a great. His punching, his power is unbelievable. You only got to see that, the blow, the body blow. He hurt him, and and I know. And before everybody says, "Oh, it was a low blow," and whatever, I'm not going to. No one's ever going to convince me any different. But that. He catches you, you are in trouble. And he's found himself since that fight. That's probably the best thing that happened to him, that fight, because it changed him, it turned him round. And you only got to look at his last 3 performances and the way he's gone about his business. And he's changed as a person, as a man. You look at him at the press conferences, you look at him in those round tables. He's a different person altogether. Okay,
but before that becomes a reality, we've got 3 big shows for Queensberry on DAZN. We'll work backwards. June 7th, we're at Portman Road with Wardley Miller. Mouth-watering clash, that one at heavyweight.
That's a cracker. I think we've done about 17,000, 18,000 tickets already. That'll be sold out. That is a cracker of a fight. And Fabio's he's been brilliant for Queensberry. It's a joy that he's on board with us. He's a really good fighter. He's shown what he's all about. Again, you look at his background. I love guys, who do it the hard way. He's done it without any amateur experience. Just, his white collar fights or blue collar fights, whatever you call them. Done the tough man fights, and then to be where he is now, and the fights and what he's done on the way, it's just been phenomenal. And this fight will be a big test for him, but it's a fight. He comes through it'll put him up into the top 5.
Has there been any update on the board potentially withholding some of Gerald's purse?
I haven't had any conversations with him about that.
Okay. as I said, working backwards then, Glasgow, May 24th for Taylor Esserman.
It's a great fight. You know, two-time world champion in Josh. He's really looking to really get himself back into the mix. And he couldn't have picked a harder opponent. You know, Echo, he's got fight written all over him, hasn't he? That's all he does. You know, last year, Boxing News, 3 best fights of the year. The heavyweight fight was number 1. Number 2 and 3 were both fights that involved Echo. That's the type of fighter he is. And he's going into the other guy's backyard in a nigh-on sold-out event. I think we might even be sold out now, but it's certainly nigh-on sold out. And the atmosphere is going to be electric, and the fight will be electric. And it's got a brilliant undercard. And
you could say the same about Nottingham on May 10th.
Same thing, yeah. I mean, these are proper fights, aren't they? There's a good story for both. You know, Anto, what a Cinderella story has that been? You know, Harry's got himself back on track, you know, focused on his boxing, knuckled down and finally showed everybody what he's all about, and done it in style and beat good fighters, good quality fighters. And he's there on merit. And he's in there with a you know, another 2-time world champion in his backyard. And again, nigh on sold out. The atmosphere again will be electric there, and it's going to be a fabulous fight. They're great fights. All these fights are great fights. And we get Daniel on as well. I mean, you know, God, I mean, the shows we're putting on over here are amazing.
If you do manage to do that, and you know, you've already had the Heavy Impact show, and the 3 shows we mentioned are coming up soon, would you say it's the best start you've had with a broadcaster?
Yeah. I mean, we had a great start when we went with Sky in the 90s, when I first went over there. I think it was in a course of about 6 weeks, Naz, Steve Collins, Frank Bruno, and Joe Calzaghe shows in a space of 5 or 6 weeks. This is up there with it.
Okay, well, on that note, Frank, I appreciate your time.
It's a pleasure.
We'll catch up soon.
Cheers, mate.
Queensberry, the biggest fights
and the biggest nights.
Home of champions.
Home of knockouts.
There's no way back from this!
The home of the future.
And this is it!
The global home of boxing.
Queensberry, exclusively on DAZN.